What is up, guys? Delboy here. So following Anthony Joshua's devastating 7th round knockout defeat to Andy Ruiz Jr., people are speculating whether Anthony Joshua can mount a successful comeback and regain the titles and his standing in the heavyweight division. And I want to discuss that in this video. I just want to share my 2 cents on the matter. Now, me personally, I believe Anthony Joshua has it all to do if he's to make a successful comeback. Now, numerous fighters in the past have been stopped in fights and they've gone on to have Hall of Fame careers, and some of these guys turned out to be all-time greats. So, losing a fight by stoppage doesn't necessarily mean you can't go on to have a great career. Losing a fight where you are a huge favourite doesn't mean you can't go on to have a great career. I mean, look at Lennox Lewis against Oliver McCall and Hashim Rahman. You know, he lost those fights where he was a huge favourite, he got knocked out, but he came back successfully. But to me, it's about how you lose. Anthony Joshua, he wasn't just beaten, he wasn't just stopped, he wasn't just dominated. He had the fight beat out of him and he didn't want to be there anymore. He mentally checked out and he had enough. He was looking for a way out and he wanted the referee to save him, in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's what I feel, that's what I believe. And if that's the case, I think that is very hard for Anthony Joshua to come back from. You know, when a guy has shown that type of vulnerability, that type of weakness, then it's harder to come back from. The type of defeat Joshua suffered on Saturday night was a mentally damaging defeat, in my opinion. You know, mentally damaging. And I've seen people compare this loss to Ruiz to other kind of heavyweight upsets or setbacks in the past. So I've seen people compare it to Lennox Lewis against Rahman and Oliver McCall. Now, to me, that's a terrible comparison because in both of those fights, for the most part, Lennox Lewis was in control and he just got caught by a big shot and got stopped. You know, you can explain that away. As a fighter, I'm sure you can tell yourself, oh, I just got caught with one silly shot. It was a mistake. It won't happen again. I can recover. You know, it's more down to a technical mistake than a mental weakness or a quit job. You know, you can come back from that. And Lennox Lewis successfully made his comeback after those 2 defeats. So I think the Lennox Lewis comparison is a bad one, actually. In fact, I would say if Joshua just got knocked clean out by Ruiz, I think that would have been easier to come back from, especially if it was the same scenario as Lennox Lewis where he was in control. If that happened, it's a lot easier to come back from, in my opinion. But like I said, it's how Joshua lost that's the problem. Now, another comparison I've heard is Vladimir Klitschko's defeats to Ross Purity, Corey Sanders and Lamont Brewster. Now, I get the comparison. There were especially similarities between the Ruiz loss and Klitschko's losses to Purity and Brewster, because basically in those 2 fights, Vladimir Klitschko, the more physically imposing guy, the better athlete, he gassed, he got beat down and he got stopped. His body kind of physically gave out on him, he just gassed and got stopped, as did Joshua against Ruiz. There are similarities in these fights, however, to me there's one big difference. In the Klitschko losses to Brewster, to Purity and to Corey Sanders, to me it never looked like Vladimir Klitschko ever mentally checked out. Looking at his body language, I think he wanted to continue, he wanted to fight on, but his body just didn't allow him. He was that physically exhausted, but the mind was willing. There's a big difference there. With Anthony Joshua, I don't think that was the case. I truly believe he wanted out. His body language was off, he was very submissive, he was retreating, and I think he was unwilling to go out on his shield, unlike Vladimir Klitschko. Yeah, aesthetically, the losses were similar, eerily similar in a couple of those instances, but to me, Vladimir showed more heart and desire to keep fighting. So because Vladimir had that type of fighting spirit in him, it was easier for him to come back. Don't forget, and this is important, after Vladimir lost to Lamont Brewster, I believe, His own brother Vitaly said he should quit. He should really consider retirement. Imagine your brother saying that, and you still have the desire, confidence, and hunger to be a world heavyweight champion. You still have the focus to improve and get better. That's the type of fighter Vladimir Klitschko was. I've said this in the past. Vladimir Klitschko got questioned for his heart all of the time, and I always felt, given the history of his career, that was always very unfair. When things got tough for Vladimir Klitschko, he was always willing to bite down on his gum shield and go out on his shield. He always had that desire, he always had that hunger, and people only really caught on to that after the last fight of his career against Anthony Joshua. That's when Vladimir Klitschko finally got credit for the heart he had, even though he showed it numerous times in his career prior to that. You know, like I said, the fact your own brother is telling you to quit and maybe do something else, and you still have that type of focus and self-belief to get better and prove people wrong, that goes to show what type of fighter Vladimir Klitschko was and what type of man he was. Does Anthony Joshua have that same level of belief, that same level of confidence, and that same level of hunger? I don't know. This guy's earned a hell of a lot of money, and maybe that edge isn't there anymore. You know, Anthony Joshua, he showed heart in the past. He showed it against Vladimir Klitschko. He showed it against Dillian Whyte. He showed it to a lesser extent against Alexander Povetkin. He showed it in the amateurs, particularly in the World Amateur Championships. It's not like Joshua hasn't shown heart before, but maybe he's now lost that edge. Maybe he's lost that desire. And maybe there's no coming back from a defeat like that against Andy Ruiz Jr. Maybe he no longer has that will. I think that's a possibility. I really do believe this type of defeat will be hard to get over. And it's going to be an interesting few months coming up in the career of Anthony Joshua. I'm really intrigued to see what happens here. Now, I'm not completely ruling this guy out. Don't get it twisted. The guy still has some good attributes. You know, he's a big guy. He can punch. He's got a good amateur background. He can box as well. You know, I think we've seen better from Anthony Joshua than what he's shown against Andy Ruiz Jr. I do still believe he's an elite fighter at heavyweight, but I do believe the road back will be a hard one. You know, his team and he himself have a lot of decisions to make. They need to map out his future, what route he goes down. Will he take the rematch with Andy Ruiz immediately, or will he kind of try to slowly regroup, rebuild, and come again in 18 months' time? How are they going to play it? Will Anthony Joshua seek out a new trainer? After this fight, I've heard a hell of a lot of criticism for Anthony Joshua's trainer, Rob McCracken. A lot of people were very critical of his corner work, and people out there are kind of saying that Joshua's not really improved since he's been with Rob McCracken. So there's a lot of questions around Team Joshua. Also, right now, should Joshua be so involved commercially? You know, he's got a lot of endorsements, he's got a lot of sponsorships. Should he kind of brush that to one side while he's rebuilding his career? Maybe that's taken an edge off of his performances. There's a lot of things to consider, in my opinion. I don't think this will be an easy rebuild job. The people around him, and he himself, like I said, have some really big decisions to make. And, you know, the next few months in Anthony Joshua's career could be crucial, and it could make or break a lot of people's reputations. So I'm really intrigued what happens going forwards in Anthony Joshua's career. I think it's a really intriguing time in the heavyweight division. Like I mentioned in my post-fight review video, I think it's a great thing Andy Ruiz has tore up the script and pulled off one of the biggest upsets in recent years. I think it's great for the division. My thing in recent months was, if these guys aren't fighting each other, then one of these guys needs to get beat by somebody else. And it happened to Anthony Joshua. This upset has renewed my interest in the heavyweight division in a big way. So shout out to Andy Ruiz Jr. But yeah, they're my 2 cents on the future of Anthony Joshua and the comeback. Share your thoughts below. I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts. Share your opinions. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please drop a like, drop a comment, and, you know, if you liked the video, maybe even drop me a sub. Help your boy out. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace.